When it comes to discussing the topic of steroids within the fitness industry, I like to picture it as sort of a pyramid. The base of the pyramid represents the majority of social media fitness personalities. These are individuals who either self-identify as being drug-free, or they simply avoid the topic altogether. For the record, this is where I personally fall into. The next level represents individuals who are not self-identifying as natural lifters, otherwise known as enhanced lifters. This level represents individuals who are honest about their current or past use of performance-enhancing substances. However, besides that, we don't have much information in regards to their personal experiences. Now, further up the pyramid, and getting to a point where we are really shrinking the sample size, we have those who self-identify as enhanced and additionally are fairly open to discussing their experiences dealing with these substances. But it is the fourth and final level on this pyramid which is perhaps the most interesting and informative of them all. This level represents such a specific set of circumstances that I personally know of perhaps only a handful of individuals who fall into this category, and even less of which are actually open to discussing their experiences in detail. The final level on this pyramid represents those who have trained for years as a natural bodybuilder, transitioned to enhanced bodybuilding, have successfully come off, and finally are willing to discuss their overall process in detail. And this is where my friend Friesma comes into play. A competitive bodybuilder who has not only experienced both the natural and so-called dark side of bodybuilding, but has also been very outspoken about his experience with steroids, both positive and negative. Now, the final thing I do want to clarify before we get into the interview is that my personal opinion of steroids is essentially neutral. Although on this channel I exclusively discuss and promote natural bodybuilding, that in no way condemns those who do choose to utilize these substances. I firmly believe that as long as you are a consenting adult who is not hurting or blatantly lying to anyone specifically for your own material gain, then it doesn't really matter where you land on this pyramid, as you are equally worthy of respect as anyone else. Now, with that being said, let's get this started. Okay guys, so I'd like to welcome Friesma to my channel. And
hello everyone.
We have a bit of an interesting, dare I say it, potentially slightly controversial video today, dealing with a topic that I haven't covered on my channel in a little bit of a while, but I think it is still one which interests a lot of people, myself included, and I'm excited to get the opinion of. Again, I probably already talked about this in the beginning portion, but I do want to reiterate, there are a lot of people in our industry, and there are a lot of people who use performance-enhancing drugs, steroids. There are less people who use it and are open about it, and there are even less people, literally maybe just a handful of people who have used it, are open about it, and then came off and are open about it. I think I'm very fortunate today to interview and pick the mind.
A survivor in front of you.
A survivor. I don't know if you want to call it. That's a bit definitely dramatic, but well, actually, maybe not. We'll find out. And again, I just want to say one more time, thank you for coming on today and talking about not an easy topic.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like me and Igor we've talked about this a lot because Igor's been here in the Gold Coast for a few weeks now, and we've been catching up and stuff. And it's an interesting topic because a lot of people do touch on it. Yeah, they'll do like the minimum talking on it possible to be able to still say, hey, I've got a vid talking about it, but it's like nothing was really addressed. It's kind of beating around the bush, you know?
Yeah, they're like a good example, and I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here. This video, for the most part, one more clarification, I think we're mostly going to avoid mentioning anybody specifically, especially if it's in any negative connotation, not because we're afraid or something, but because I don't like to do things to call people out, or at least not anymore on this on this channel. Not for a couple of years. I don't think that really adds anything healthy to the debate or to the environment. And I think it becomes more about the drama and less about like let's cut the shit and get the facts. But this one example, which is, I'm not it's not a negative thing. Steve Cook recently, a couple months ago, came out and did a video kind of talking about his natural state or whatever you want to call it, and he did talk about. I want to use the word admit. It's not like you have to admit anything. It's just a personal choice which he did make in the past, and he talked about how he was like what does he say, like a pro hormone or something.
So he said
it was something like that, but he didn't really go into any more detail. Not that he's required to or he's like obligated to do so, but it's just a good example of somebody who, fortunately, in this case, was honest, but we didn't really get
we much out of it.
We got the tip of the iceberg. So today we're gonna go a little bit deeper. But enough. I've already blabbed on. Okay, number one, I think a really good way to start is let's actually get in your own words, because you've made multiple videos on this in the past, which I've talked about on this channel. But in your own way, just give us a little bit of a summary of what your experience was. What did you take?
Yeah, so technically my first experience would actually be at a point where, so basically with me, I've been training for, since I was 13. I'm 28 years old now. Yeah. So I got into training before it was popular, before there was any fitness scene. Anyone to look up to would be probably Arnold Schwarzenegger would be like the only guy. I think maybe Jay Cutler's like the Olympia at the time or something. But trains probably all the wrong ways for like so many years. Got a little bit of results at the, new begins. You doing something's better than doing nothing, but I think I would have been 20 years old when I technically first touched something, which was, at the time, I didn't even know it was steroids. So that was Winstrol. And that was, basically, it's like a hardening steroid, but it's oral. So at the time as well...
What's, just for myself included, what's the difference between hardening and the alternative?
Yeah, well, see, that's where like my knowledge on gear isn't crazy good, and that's why I've probably had a bad experience with it as well. But you got to realize, like 99% of people that do gear, they're doing it without the education or the wealth. They're doing it from the influence of someone around them. Like,
there's not many.
There's
people...
a guy in your gym taking this. He just tells you to take this, and you just do it. That was my first experience, and I didn't even realize it was something. So that was actually. Have been competing. I've done a few comps. I did a fair few comps naturally, where I feel like I actually looked pretty good.
Yeah, I remember there was some you looked. I remember there was some videos.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh man, you look so good. And I didn't know the full history, but I was thinking damn, this shit works. Then you're like, no, that's before it started. So I was like, what the
so that's the thing, and that's why when I got to a point a few years ago, I kind of came out about using stuff from the past. I made videos specifically to really just show people at what point, like, the physique changed or I took something, because then you could actually see what I did before that naturally. Because anyone out there, well, most people genetically, you can build a decent physique without anything, like with just good training, good nutrition. It's when you're just kind of like maybe taking it to that next level, I guess, that, which a lot of people, they don't put in the work naturally first to even build something, and then they just think the gear is going to be all the answers they need, and
okay, so it's
the last place you want to be.
So let's see. You went on that Winstrol level.
Yeah. So like I said, at the time I didn't even know that, because it was oral as well. I didn't even know that. I thought steroids had to be
injectable. Yeah.
So I just had someone who was helping me with the comp prep I was doing, and then they were like, take some Clen and Winstrol. And then from what I knew of Clen's not a steroid, which is helps shred you up. It basically speeds up your metabolism. It makes you burn more calories. Basically,
it's a thermogenic.
Yeah. So and exactly, even that, like, my influence to taking that, I was at a point where I was like, I did some comps, and then I had nationals comp coming up, and I'm like, I want to do really well in this. So it's like, whatever, I'll take the Clen. Took it jittery.
This is over in, I just want to clarify, this is back in New Zealand.
Back in New Zealand, yeah. So it felt really crap on that stuff. But then coming off it, also I was only on stuff for 4 weeks, and there's this Winstrol stuff. It was 3.5 to 4 weeks.
This is right before the show?
Just right before the show. So I'd already got comp ready, and then I had another 4 weeks of really hard dieting on 1,700 calories.
With the Winstrol?
With the Winstrol.
Did it make a difference?
It definitely made a difference.
Bigger, leaner?
So in terms of, I was just getting leaner. You just get leaner to a point where if you're on 1,700 to 1,800 calories an hour cardio a day and weights every day, you're getting leaner no matter what drugs you're doing. But from what I've found out, and since using it that time, I've realized coming off it, it definitely made you get better pumps in the gym with less food. So as someone who's natural, you got to rely on your nutrition is huge.
This is one thing I have heard about is that in addition to all the effects that it has to your body, the effects that it has, so it's not just the results and the physical body, but also the act of training. I've heard that it's just I've seen people talk about who've gone through it, like in the past, and they'd be like training on gear versus not. It's like riding a rocket ship versus riding a bicycle with a broken wheel. It's like, you know, you could eat nothing and you just get mind-blowing pumps. But if you're like natural and you're training and it's right before a show, you're low on calories, low on carbs, it's like you feel like crap and you can't get a pump to save your life.
So like we'll get to that.
Okay.
So windstroke, that was like the first thing. And like I said at the time, I didn't even know it was a thing. So coming off the back of that, wasn't many side effects coming off that because it was, like I said, 4 weeks just on a normal dose of that. And then basically I had people in my ear, in my circle and stuff who were like, dude, look how good you looked on this show day. So like now looking back on what I've done, because I kind of get interested now and I look at stuff, so I watch people's vids and stuff. And from what I gather, most people, if they're doing a cycle for a comp, they'll be on Winstrol for like 12 weeks. So like as well, the fact that I was on it for 4 weeks, when I found out it wasn't a steroid at the time, still this was the point no one was talking about it. I wasn't going to come out and say, I'm not natural, guys. Because then people would just be like, oh, you're not natural. So yeah, your whole physique, like the reason you even knew much about it. Yeah, I didn't know much about it. And it was kind of like, I don't want anyone to take anything away from me for that. Because it's like, if I'm really not going to be natural, and you're going to say, oh, Friesman's not natural. It's
then
like,
you got to go fucking balls to the wall.
Yeah. Which eventually
I'm not going to lose. You don't want to lose your natty card over.
Yeah.
Oh, I tripped and fell on a needle, and just for 5 seconds. That's it. That you're done.
But like literally, I was like, at the time as well. No one's talking about it. It's not even a thing to come out about it. But like, I didn't know until I think it was like 4 months after when I was prepping for my next show. And then I found out that Winstrol was a steroid.
Winstrol was,
I'm like, fuck, technically I'm not natural. I was like,
not anymore,
I was real gutted about it. I was actually really upset about it.
But eventually, it's funny, in my script here I have it. At what time did you jump to the big boy stuff?
Yeah. And when you're actually injecting the needle. Just, I don't know, like just back at the time, it was after that show doing another prep. People, like I said, people were in my ear and they were like, if you can look that good naturally on 4 weeks of Winstrol, imagine you actually running some tests for size, like how much bigger you'll be on stage and all.
So test is testosterone?
Testosterone, yeah.
Okay.
So then that was my first cycle. I was prepping for a show, as always, and I took, I think it was mg a week of tests enanthate or prop.
Okay, which is that a lot, a little?
I'd say like the smallest cycle anyone would probably do on that would be...
so it's definitely on the low end. I would see interviews with like IFBB pros. They don't even talk in milligrams. They talk in grams. They're like, I take 1 or 2 grams, which each gram is 1,000 milligrams.
So this is all back in New Zealand. This is my first experience. So I am glad like hell that I only started on that small amount, and then to see the side effects of what it did to me. I was prepping for my show. My whole metabolism of my body changed. Everything changed, and I was trying to get lean, and I was just holding water. So, and here's the thing, like, people don't think about when you take something, you really have to know what you're doing because you're messing with your biochemistry. And I learned the hard way. I couldn't get ready for my show on time because I was dieting exactly how I used to diet for a show.
But it's not working.
And then my face was like out here. I put on 3 kgs in 2 weeks shredding, and I was just like, what the heck is going on? And I didn't have. Are you
taking anything else besides testosterone?
No,
just test.
No. And at this point, it was like, I think I was organizing Winstrol for this show, but then it was like, got to the point. I pulled out of this show before because I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So
you didn't do the show?
I didn't do the show.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll do the 3.5 weeks of Winstrol again because I didn't want to do more than that. And then I pulled out because I didn't even get to that point.
So it made you hold water?
Made me hold water.
Did you just? How does that translate visually? Do you just look fat?
Yeah, well, it's crazy. Like I looked huge, but like just not lean. You know, for a comp, you need to be lean through your midsection. Like my waist to my face, and like I was just holding water, and like my vascularity was way less.
I did hear about this, like how the old times, guys in the 60s and 70s, before they had like the knowledge and the variety of compounds they do now. Because now, even you mentioned earlier, they have like hardening compounds. Yeah. They have like other stuff for bulking, stuff for cutting.
Yeah.
And I did hear about like, the old days back in like, Arnold, or even before that, we're talking like Larry Scott days, where they didn't have that. That's why they were all very big, but they almost like, they're not fat, but they were kind of like, they look by comparison to these days now, you will have guys who make Arnold and all those guys back then look fat by comparison.
by comparison.
And we're talking about guys now who
Yeah.
are natural. They were like
Yeah.
natural guys who were like dry and 6% body fat.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they might be obviously a lot smaller, but they'll make those olden day guys look like
Yeah.
like smooth. So pretty much, I think right now, again, I'm no expert, but it still seems like quantity and severity. It still seems like we're not even at the
That's like
moderate
nothing. That's
level.
like nothing. Still for me to have the like effects of like. So here's what happened after that cycle. I didn't PCT because there was no information about PCT.
You did not PCT.
So PCT is what you should do after your cycle to help keep what gains you got and help get your hormones back to normal.
So you just went cold turkey?
I went cold turkey off it, and because it was almost like I was really angry, and I was like, I'm going cold turkey almost with a purpose off this shit. Like fuck this shit.
Like fuck this.
That's how I really felt.
So you had so pretty much your second time around, you've already had a negative
I
experience.
was pissed, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is so shit. And basically, I was depressed for 2 months, stopped training because my training I noticed the difference immediately. Like my pumps weren't as good, and it became to a point I couldn't get a pump. And then I actually went and saw a doctor, got my like bloods done and stuff, and I found out that my test was like under the lower range of like a normal healthy person. And obviously my whole life, because I built a good physique naturally, it's like I wouldn't have been under that range by any means. You know what I'm saying?
No. Like, guys, for those of you that don't know, like, although your testosterone can fluctuate in the natural realm, there are certain things you can do to actually increase it naturally. And people think it's like magic supplements or magic foods. No, usually it's just like live a good, normal, healthy life and just exercise. Just you working out. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. People think that I need to increase my test to work out better, but it's like, no. You increase your test by working out.
Yeah,
so you were probably like, at least the normal healthy guy, if not maybe and also you were so young. Your testosterone drops when you're older. You were like, what, 20s? I mean, this is the prime of of a man's life from a hormonal standpoint.
And so to come off that, I was depressed for months, and then like I got bad acne around my shoulders coming off it. So it throws your hormones in just whack, you know what I'm saying? As soon as you stop taking that stuff. So this was just 6.5 weeks as well on this test.
So that's it.
So
still
again,
like
people are doing 12-week cycles and stuff. And eventually I did do a 12-week cycle, which was maybe the year after that or the next year after that.
Okay, so what was your next cycle? The year after the one you just mentioned, what was that?
I moved to Australia the next year, and then I came over here. I went to like the Arnold Classic and stuff, and I was like shredded for that, and then like I was always shredded when I came over here because I just held my shape from the end of a shred before I left New Zealand. And being here in the Gold Coast, like being lean is like nice because it's always sunny and you kind of want to hold that. But I was, I don't think I was probably as big as I was before I was on gear, but it took me a while to even get back there, to where I was before I touched anything. You know what I mean? And then there was just a point where I had a good aesthetic physique, like I always did before gear in the first place. And then I just started to get really affected by seeing people around in the gyms here. And I went from, in New Zealand at the time, especially because Australia is a bit more ahead in terms of people on gear and stuff. It's crazy. You come over here and people are openly talking about gear in the gyms, taking it when they're like 17, 18 years old, running cycles. And it's just like mind blowing. I was training here in the gyms and like, I don't know, like my physique, it was alright. Like it was aesthetic. It was actually probably really good. You know what I mean? But I was training next to monsters, and when you're training next to a couple of people in your gym who they tell you what they take because you're curious, you ask them, you talk to people, and they're like, "Hey, I'm running this, and this," and then you're just like, "Oh shit!" So like, what if I run this, and this? So then this one was like, okay, you're talking to guys in the gym here who are
the big boys.
Basically this was the one where I'm like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I know I had that bad time last year, but
this is gonna be different. I
was like, it's because I didn't PCT off it. So I organized my PCT before this one. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and this was like a 12-week. Actually, no, sorry, this was a 10-week cycle, and this was trend, test. So test, like I said, I had that bad experience, but I did blow up at the time. Like you noticeably get thicker, but obviously I was holding water. Trend, and then Masteron. Which was, I still don't even know what that does. Like, you know what I'm saying? But
I don't know what this is.
At this point, like, that's where my head was at. I was like, I just want to do whatever it takes. I felt so inadequate compared to a lot of I'm not going to name names, but there's just a few people
fine,
around the place. And
so it seems like I'm like, from my knowledge, Tren is like we've jumped a level above.
Yeah.
Because now you went from taking short periods of time, low doses, and single compounds to longer 3 compounds. And I don't know but and the compounds themselves are like from what I understand, Tren's like a pretty hard,
very, very harsh and powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that's
and the craziest thing. So like, you notice that in your physique straight away.
So okay, so now that you're taking more stuff, harder stuff. What started happening to you? Let's see your physique first.
So the problem is that if you get good stuff, that's obviously like good stuff, because that's the thing people don't think about as well. You never know what you're getting when you're just getting stuff from the internet or from someone in the gym. You don't know where the stuff's coming
99% of people aren't going to a doctor and getting a prescription for Tren.
Yeah, literally, right? Unless you're getting it for your fucking horse, which is what it's developed for, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard that some of these things are like isn't like cleanse some kind of tranquilizer or some kind of something? I think it's not the opposite. No, it's something for cows or some shit.
I've heard that they to lean cattle up and stuff. They get them
for leaner beef.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's
for
the one.
Cows.
Yeah.
And then here we are.
And then with Tren, I think it might be the same thing. Maybe it's like I think it's horses.
It's animal shit. Okay.
But anyway, so
you got this from your local vet.
I noticed you immediately your mood changes when you take this stuff. You almost turn into a different person. Like I started to become like cocky and like just not my normal self. It kind of just made me. I think I just had so much confidence with it. Like it really boosts your testosterone. Like obviously that's what gear does.
Yeah.
But literally to the point of like you're walking around and you start feeling like you're pumped when you're not even pumped. So the stuff works, and that's the scariest thing. And that's what I've always told people is the problem, because
from a number standpoint, I know this is like hard because you're thinking back to like something that happened 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you remember? Like, if I were to ask you roughly, how much weight did you put on?
Well, that's a good one. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, like, are we talking like 2 kilos, 20 kilos? Like, what's...
So I'll tell you what happened. So I did the test, the Tren, and the muscle run. I did a 10-week cycle running that, right?
Yeah.
And basically I went from probably, in terms of like weight, I'd say I went from maybe like 76 kgs lean to like 84, 85 kgs lean in that period of time. So
it's like 20 pounds, 9 kilos.
Yeah.
Assuming a relatively similar body fat percentage.
And
that's pretty much all muscle.
Maybe even a bit leaner even. So I saw some crazy changes on it.
So just muscle and...
Yeah. And here's the thing. So the scary thing is it works. Coming off the back of that, as fast as you get something in life, and this is with anything, you're going to lose it, or you're people will try say no, you just PCT'd wrong or stuff. And here's where things got messed up for me personally. So I have my PCT organized. Obviously when you're dealing with stuff here in Australia, it's like illegal drugs, like that's not a set in stone thing. So I should have had my PCT physically at the time, but I just had it organized for afterwards. I didn't physically have it.
So they ordered it.
And again, I know like people could say, well, you're an idiot for doing this, and it's like you have to remember at the time, just the knowledge and the whole scene and everything. It's not like it is today where people prevalently talk about this stuff. So at least if you're going to maybe do something, you do it right. But still, I feel like in this day and age, there's still too many people who are pro talking about it and its benefits and less that talk about the negative. So I like to be on that negative side to say, hey guys, don't just do something because your favorite fitness influencer is doing it. It's like, is this actually going to make your life better? Is this actually what you want for yourself?
I feel like it's so easy to fuck things up.
It really is.
If you think about other drugs, let's say recreational.
Yeah.
Like, you take one thing and you just smoke it and that's it. You can change the amount that you take it, and there's different strains, but it's just one thing.
Yeah.
When you coke, one thing. LSD, one thing.
Yeah.
These drugs are just like, the only question is, where are you getting and how much are you taking? But with gear, it's like, I'm taking 5 different things, and then after I'm done taking those 5 things, I need to take 3 things to offdo the effects of those. So it's like that's why they call it a stack or a cycle. It's not just one thing. Maybe in your case, maybe some people when they start out, but eventually, like the majority of people, from what I understand.
And the sad thing is, I realized, and this is when I actually came out and started being open, that I did these cycles and stuff. I had so many, like hundreds and hundreds of teenagers, people in their early 20s messaging me and saying, bro, like, this was my first cycle I did. And they started off with 3 things. You know, I started off with 1 thing and I was having troubles. And these guys are like, I was taking this, and this, got off with my guy in the gym or whatever who, you know, and I realized like, holy shit, this problem is big. Like, this is a pressure on young people. And I was like, damn, man, just getting messages from people. And they're like, exact same thing. They lost all their gains. Even some of them PCT'd successfully, lost everything still. Like, I think that's the myth. People think, you know, you just keep everything. Yeah. So I went through a period, my PCT fell through because obviously it's a...
So you didn't have any...
Like, my guy just failed on me.
So did you just cold turkey again?
And then it was like, I had to cold turkey it. And then so I'm 4 weeks cold turkey.
Except now you're cold turkeying with something that's like...
And yeah,
3 times
as strong.
And strong and worse. And it was bad last time, so what happened this time?
At this point, then it's like, okay, 4 weeks. I started to notice the side effects. So after 4 weeks off it, my hormones changed again. Gyno. So as a kid, I've done a lot of videos on gyno. If you guys go on my channel, you'll see. I had gyno as a kid, so like one nipple especially was puffier than the other, and when I'm warm, my nipples aren't that kind of like hard, perfect nipple look. They're kind of like puffy. So as a kid, I've always had that, right?
So no.
So even when I was natural, like before I filmed any video in the gym, I would twist my nipples because it gives them that like hard kind of normal look. But people don't know that. So sometimes people are like, oh, you didn't even have gyno here and stuff, and it's like, yeah, because I like
you have to like.
Pinching my freaking nipple. Yeah, literally. And so when I took gear, that's when it was like...
You came off.
These things fucking puffed out. And it turns out like they're just hard lumps formed underneath them. So I started getting gyno. And that was 4 weeks off. And then at this point, I was like feeling like crap. I did not feel like Superman anymore. I started getting acne again on my shoulders and back and stuff like that. I started to get depressed and stuff like this. And... Then I had an expo coming up at the end of the year, which was one like, you're going to be on the booth with Saluko with like Cullen von Moga. And I'm like...
Is this when you did Vlog of the Gods?
This is when I did Vlog of the Gods. And I was like, I'm going to be standing next to Cullen von Moga on a booth. Like, so I got back on. Oh. And this is where I did...
What did you do this time?
So I got back on the trend and test. I think I canned the master on because I was just like...
Well, still, yeah.
So, and then this was when like my physique just started to get fucked up. This is when... And because at least when I was doing the 10 weeks before that, my diet was in check and like I was kind of carrying more. This time I was just like back on the drugs, and then my diet was like a normal person, but I was like eating out and stuff, and I just got real puffy and I just started putting on heaps of weight.
I remember seeing you the videos from around this time.
Yeah.
Your face looked different.
So yeah, that's the crazy thing.
I'm like, is that you? It doesn't look like you. It looks like you, except someone just stretched out the image.
Literally, it's like...
Just...
Yeah, and I look back on that and I'm like...
What was that?
Wow, like I look so unhealthy. Like I don't look like myself. You know what I mean? And
you look like someone after 20,000 milligrams of water and sodium.
Yeah, literally. And it's like... For my face to look like that, but then my vascularity in my arms and like still have like a bit of a shredded abs kind of from like the sides in some shots. So I was vascular, but I was like lean looking because I had muscle underneath, but there was like a layer of water, but then the trend kind of offset it and made me more vascular. So it gives that illusion of still being kind of leanish. But yeah, you just look at me and I look back and I just think I look like a puffy whale. Like,
it was weird. Like I remember seeing that video, and it's like you looked like big, but and like lean. Obviously, I see like the abs and the vascularity. You looked like pumped up.
Yeah,
it definitely did give off a little bit. Like, you know, some people talk about there's like a certain steroid look, and some people say that's bullshit.
Yeah,
that's just that's just what you interpret it. There's no, you can't really just visually tell. But in that specific instance, it didn't kind of seem. You didn't just look like a big natural dude.
Yeah,
you seem like a big.
There's that look.
Yeah, there's something to it. It's hard to pinpoint what it is, but you obviously described it very well.
And you can also see it from like, I don't know, like I think right now looking at both of us, because we're natural, it's like I think me and Igor have a very natural look. Like
there's a certain look. It's like, I mean, obviously this is based on, there's no real hard science on this. This is all just anecdotal or like word of mouth or just eyeballing it.
Yeah.
But like sometimes it's like you can, and it's not always right, but like sometimes you see people and it's just like they look like someone who is like high. I can just see the high blood pressure on you. You just look like a really. You look like a tomato, except that you're made out of granite. Because your skin is just like, it looks like it's... It looks like it's made out of like tissue paper or something.
And it's weird, everyone has these different effects. Like me and Igor were talking before though, like there's still people like, obviously Arnold back in the day, we were talking about this in the gym, we're like, whatever he was running, obviously he was running stuff. But for every Arnold, there's like 10 guys who are getting really bad acne, their skin looks shit, they're losing hair and stuff like this. And like, but people just like to look at the guys who are like successfully done it. And I know even for me, I wouldn't say by any means what I did was successful at all. Because in coming off all of that, the back of that one, that
fucked you up.
That fucked me up, man. I had my PCT organized and I was on
Didn't
PCT.
Yeah.
Still, like literally it was just within weeks and weeks, everything I had in terms of muscle just turned to like soft. Like, so my arms just got soft. Like, so they're still kind of big, but it was like body fat.
This actually leads me into another question, which I have here, which is, because a lot of people, one of the most common questions I saw on Instagram, let's say that you are 180 at a certain body fat percentage. Then you take some stuff for 12 weeks, you go up to 190 or 200 pounds. So you gain 10, 15, 20 pounds of lean muscle, whatever. When you come off, how much of that do you retain? Or do you retain any of it?
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't think you retain any of it.
You think it's just like over time it will all go away?
Yeah, I really don't think you do. It's a topic which I'm not like 100%.
Well, at least in your and I know
I've
that
had experience.
In your situation, obviously it's hard to say because anybody watching this video can say like, well, his situation is not, you can't analyze that because it was far from perfect. Maybe in terms of, everyone's always going to have debates in terms of what you ran. Oh, you should have, your cycle should have been differently, or because of the fact that you didn't have a successful PCT.
When I came out online talking about my experience, and I was basically like, the fitness industry is fucked. Like, fuck this. Maybe I don't know if it's worth linking below, but it's like it's very raw at the time where I was. It's like me after a breakup and like basically going homeless, and like my whole like mental state was just like fucked, and it was all off the back of coming off gear. And this is the problem. So I know people that, I've got a lot of friends and stuff, and I know people, they're on gear and they're only on gear because they feel they have to be on gear. They can't come off that shit. You know what I mean? And that's what I just think it's important for people to understand.
That's another thing which actually, and again, like, I had these questions, but we're jumping around all over the place, but that's good. I'd rather do it this way. It's more natural.
That's cool.
One of the questions I had, now you guys, know my opinion on it, is that me personally, natural athlete, have always been, but I am not like one of those people who demonize it entirely. It's something which has crossed my mind, and it's something which I am not 100% against. If you want to say, like, let's say there's like a spectrum, for me personally, like, let's say, once it goes below 50%, that's when you do it, because now it's like, so let's say 100% would be like, oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. And once you go below 50, that's when you start doing it. I would say I'm someone who's probably like somewhere in that 70 to 80 mark. It's not 100, but it's not at 50 where you cross over and you cross that line. And one of the reasons, besides obviously the issues, from a health standpoint, one of the issues is that I feel like if I were to get on it, what am I going to do? Am I just going to like, okay, cool, I make all these gains, I look great, and then I just stop after a cycle, and then I go back to normal? Or even if I do it for a year or two, can I just, once you have a taste of being Superman, how do you ever psychologically just be like, that was fun, back to normal, back to being fucking Ned Flanders? Like, how do you do this,
And that's an interesting point, and that's what, like, I was saying to Igor before, it's like, we even have trouble coming out the back of doing a competition where we've shredded down to get lean, and then we put on an extra 3% body fat, and then that change in your physique where you've probably actually gained a bit of muscle even after a comp.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, even just going from, like, when we're at our best, naturally prepping for a show, you compete, you're the leanest you've been all year. Even that, the following month, where you go back to looking like a still good but slightly worse version of yourself, that alone is hard, because you go from looking like your best to looking good, but like you go from 100% down to like 90 or 80%. I can't imagine if you're on gear and you look 200% to go down to like again, to be a mere human, or even less because you are in the rebound stage.
Yeah, so here's the thing as well. So like we were saying, like a few months ago, I was looking back, maybe like a month ago, I was like I'm not having a cry, but I did a vid where I'm like upset that I've put on probably like 3 or 4% body fat, and around my midsection I could notice it with my shirt off, and only in down lighting, because in natural lighting my physique was still good.
Which on YouTube is pretty much obese.
Yeah, I'm like looking at this, having a cry. I'm like, now a month later, I'm like, I was freaking delusional. That's me not on gear or not coming off gear. Imagine you're coming off, your hormones are out of whack. And here's the thing, when we're doing a comp and we're coming out the back of it, yeah, we might put on a bit of body fat, but our training gets way better. So our training's increasing and we're enjoying our training more and getting more out of it. You come off gear, your training gets progressively worse and worse and worse.
So you look worse, you feel worse, you train worse.
It's bad. I mean, I can... And your hormones out of whack. You're on that lower end of the testosterone.
At least when you first start to come off, you look like this huge... You look like the Hulk.
Yeah.
But emotionally, because it's like somebody just turns the tap off for your testosterone, which is not just an anabolic like muscle hormone. It's also the things that make men. It makes you manly. Yeah. It makes you aggressive. It makes you kind of like... it psychologically does have beneficial factors. So if you go first you go from a regular person to extra, like you mentioned, you feel like overly confident. You just
feel like Superman, bro.
And then you don't go back to normal. You go even less. So now I've heard that people literally like joke that you feel like you have the testosterone and the feeling and the confidence of like a 4-year-old girl.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
it literally is like that. It really, that was the biggest struggle for me, like was the mental thing.
I mean, there's a huge reason why women definitely, with their cycles, definitely go through a lot more emotional variability than men.
Yeah.
Who are, for the most part, usually a lot more flatline as opposed to, a girl, especially, during like PMS or all that stuff. It's interesting because it's kind of like men generally, from what I've always understood, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, are somewhat consistent with their hormones. Obviously, there are going to be fluctuations, nothing's perfectly static, but there's nothing, we don't have there's no time of the month for us. We're just kind of natural. Our hormones don't fluctuate due to our reproductive cycle. But like this seems like it's like, suddenly it's like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
This.
And then, so this is what people try to say is like the PCT will, instead of having you've had that spike for 10, 12 weeks, instead of going straight down. People say it's gradual like that. But even still, it's decreasing. And here's the thing, we haven't even touched on this. Injecting. So you got to inject this stuff, you know what I mean? And for a lot of people, like I know a lot of people on gear and got friends on gear. I don't judge anyone anymore. I just try to be the voice on the other side to say, hey, make sure you know you're doing this for the right reasons. Is this going to enhance your life or is it going to really mess it up?
So when you were taking this shit, did you pretty much have to do like injections week, month?
So it was every kind of like, I think it was like every 3 days or some shit.
And did you have to inject each substance separately?
Yes.
So it's 3 injections every 3 days.
It's been so long.
Something like that.
Yeah, but it was.
It
was something like that.
It's not like one a month.
It wasn't like you could put it all in one syringe. It was like I remember it was like 2 syringes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the whatever different day it was like your test E or something, because there's like long esters and stuff like that. But.
And for those of you guys for those that don't know, actually, no, I don't want to get into that. I was gonna say like, let's talk about like where you inject it. No, I'm not fucking giving you advice. We're here to talk, I want to talk about the philosophy of it, not about the specifics of it.
Yeah.
So so we've established pretty much, we got a pretty good idea of your timeline. I think that was like around 2016, maybe like early 2017. What happened next? Because I mean, I know that you had issues with gyno.
Yeah.
And you had, did eventually all these things pass and you became your normal self and you were
just like, my arms kind of stayed the same size, but they just lost all their leanness.
Yeah.
And then in my waist, just like
blew up.
Like I just put on body fat really easily. It was literally, I felt as if all my muscle was converting to fat. I literally felt like that. So at my heaviest on the gear, I was 94 kgs. And then literally 2 months after, and this is with a PCT, I was down at 88 kgs. And in terms of body fat percentage, I'd probably put on like 6% body fat.
All right, I got this question asked 100 times. If I don't ask this, then I'm going to get roasted. The ball shrinking thing, is that true? And if so, how much are we talking here? Okay, you know what?
Please.
All right, Friesman. Say when to stop. Tell me when.
Those are the smallest ones.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought it would have a. 50,
Let me see. What's the biggest one?
No, I don't have a 50 cent.
They didn't get that small.
Okay, they weren't that bad. All right, so but the point is, it did happen.
Yeah, like your balls shrink. Your dick doesn't though.
See,
I think as Rich Piana used to joke, makes your dick
look bigger by comparison.
Yeah.
I was fucking. He would find the positive in anything.
Yeah. R.I.P. to Rich Piana, but
so pretty much you had to like. It's definitely more significant because it's like obviously again you can make the argument that what you did was just incorrect and had you done it perfectly then maybe this wouldn't have been an issue, but it seems pretty significant that like if we just look at the timeline, not counting the first 2 little cycles you did, but the big boy stuff, the trend, the master, and all that shit, you got 10 weeks. And you came off a little bit, had some side effects, and then another 4 weeks? You said
it's either 4 to 6. Yeah.
So let's say it's 16 weeks. That's 16 weeks. It's 4 months, and then it took you 2+ years of recovery before you were back to normal, which wasn't just sitting on your ass. That was with additional drugs, with, doctor.
Yeah, I'd say, so actually, no, well, here's the thing I actually did. Here's the thing actually, Igor. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't 2 years off. So it was like, I got lean. So I started just getting lean again, basically. It had no more muscle or anything than when I was like natural. You know what I mean? Yeah, I eventually got lean. Got my physique to kind of like within 6 months to where it used to be when I was natural.
Yeah.
And then when I got lean, my gyno was noticeable. So then that was the issue. So there was that point where I just hit it and I like,
it's just
like,
so
I've gotten my physique back to like good where I'm happy with it. And now I've got freaking these huge lumps under my nipples, which I had to get surgically removed.
And from what I understand, like if you just leave it alone, gyno doesn't go away, does it? No, because it's like you grew it, but it won't disappear. And it's like this is part of your body now.
When I came out about my gyno, some people were like, "Oh, you're being dramatic," and like, it's funny. Like even when I was doing Vlog of the Gods, I was making jokes with like Jeff Side and stuff. I was like, "Puffer's gonna puff," talking about why my nipples are puffy because I'd always had gyno, but it was accentuated like a motherfucker. But then that was kind of like joking around about it, which at the time I was like, "It's funny, whatever." Then it's like, because that's when I was on the gear, but then coming off it, then it became like, oh no, this isn't funny, I'm depressed as fuck about this. So I had to get that surgically removed. And then people were like, oh, why don't you take Arimazole or some stuff to dry it out? And then I'm just like, how much stuff you got to take, really? Like it just... This is one thing. For example, to bring up another example of a video which I personally enjoyed. So Brendan Harding, bodybuilder who recently has come out about his use. The way they come out, it made it sound like he's gay. It's just
it's come out of the steroid closet.
Yeah.
He came out about his use, which I respect because it's like I appreciate honesty and transparency. And again, like when it comes to steroids, I'm pretty libertarian on it. Like you can do whatever the fuck you want to do as long as it doesn't affect anybody else. If you are an adult, you're over the age of 18, you are using your own money, you can do whatever you want to your body as long as that's why I'm very similarly about that with like other drugs too. Like Canada recently legalized pot and I was thinking, good, if you want to smoke a plant, I don't care. I personally don't like it, but you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing something like, I don't know, some drug like PCT or something, which makes you violent and you're fighting people on the street. Besides that, you can essentially do whatever you want. And I really enjoyed his video. He did like a few, but he did one in particular where he talked about everything. And I enjoyed it because it was because it was open and it was honest, but it freaked the fuck out of me. Because it was like, I'm taking this, then because of this, to offset the side effects, I'm taking this. And then to offset the side effects of these, I'm taking this and this. And this makes me tired, so I take this to perk me back up. And this makes me too perky, so I take this to mellow me back down. Yeah. And I'm like, what? There's just this pyramid of drugs. Yeah. And I'm like, this... I always thought like, back when I didn't know anything, back when I thought Arnold was natural.
Yeah.
I still, eventually when I figured it out, I'm like, okay, I thought that they take a steroid. It was like taking a Tylenol. It's like they just take this one thing. I didn't realize that there was like a cascade of things, and then you take a cascade of things to offset that. That's what freaks me out, because now you're just a walking mini pharmacy.
Yeah. And I think, here's the thing, it's like, in Arnold's days, we were saying there was probably like 1 or 2 things to take.
Yeah, just take like, I remember he was like, I do that on a ball a day. Done.
Yeah, he actually said that?
We talked about it very openly. I mean, anyone that was asked, he says, you take steroids? Yeah, I take 3 Dianabol a day. Or someone else would say, I would take this, and that. It was not an illegal thing.
So obviously, there's a point between the 70s bodybuilding and then like the 90s, I think, is when the drugs really started going to that place.
The mass monsters.
This to take off this, to take off this, to take off that. And then now we're kind of seeing in the 2000s, at this kind of day and age now, the influence probably from the 90s top bodybuilders. Now that stuff's come down to the mainstream of like people like, you know, Brandon or whatever with his YouTube channel, and like
just like when I hear about like, I mean, even in your case, it was very surprising because it's like with my limited experience, I did hear people that make jokes online about tren is like the hard shit, right?
Yeah,
and it would cause like all these fucked up side effects. Like they called it like tren cough or something.
Yeah, so you'd inject it. So I'd inject it, and then I'd be coughing straight away. But then people would joke about it, like, "Hey, if you're coughing, you got the good stuff." Like it's actually.
It's amazing how they've turned like a physiological negative side effect into a joke.
Yeah, and that's like in the era of when I was taking gear. Like I had a friend, and he was known for like being on tren all the time, and it was like a funny thing.
The tren cough.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, that's just fascinating to me. How it's kind of like its own little niche, or it's like its own little. I don't know, it's become like a fad or like a hobby for these people.
You're gonna be able to monetize this video, bro?
Probably not.
Man, we should have said we should have said anabolics.
I should have said supplements. That's one thing that pissed me off. I see there's people who like and I get maybe they're trying to avoid it, especially on social media where you could have issues with like monetization or getting shadow banned or whatever.
Yeah.
But when people like kind of say like, oh, I'm taking supplements or something, like I get it. It's pretty much like, you know, the underlying notion is that like I'm just kind of, but like there are people who think that. There are people who think that when you say supplements, you actually mean supplements.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. This is moving a little bit away from your personal situation and more into your personal opinion. So, along with steroids comes the whole concept of like social media, and with that comes the whole concept of like what everyone has been talking about for years now. And I think that some of my bigger videos may even be a little bit personally responsible for that. Would be kind of the whole topic of like in the social media, whether it be competing or not competing, using it, but then kind of like not talking about it. The whole fake natty thing. There's like 1,000 natty or not videos and all these things. But one thing which I'm kind of curious about is, what is your opinion with people in our industry, taking competing aside, who do use steroids or performance enhancing drugs, but they essentially like they're quiet about it. These are people who just avoid the topic altogether and just essentially like they kind of just shut up about it.
I don't have a problem with that. You see, one thing with me, even at the times when I was on gear, I wasn't openly talking about it. So technically, there's a point at the start, like when I first started the cycle, I was like, but actually before I did that 16-week one, I did actually come out online on Facebook and I was like, hey guys, this is what happened to me. I talked about my first experience. So people know that I'd touched stuff in the past. But then, like, there's a point where I stopped claiming, like, natural, obviously. Because but if
you weren't openly like, hey, I'm not only I'm not going to stop claiming natural, but I'm going to announce I'm on the juice.
Yeah.
You didn't do that.
Yeah. But here's the thing. When kids would come up to me at an expo and shit, and they followed me, like, if they asked me if I was natural, I would say yes, because the last thing I want to say is no, and then have that influence.
That's an interesting. That's like a philosophical dilemma.
Yeah, and that's what it is, because like the best thing that ever happened to me was having the influence in my head of thinking that Arnold Schwarzenegger was natural as I was growing up training, that Ziz was natural as I was getting a bit older even, and wanting to like shred up and lean up and all that stuff. So mentally thinking these guys are natural, I'm trying myself. There's no thought of gear in my head as a teenager, even up to until the age of 22 when I first did Winstrol, whatever it was. Like there was like a year before the Winstrol where it was like people are like taught you kind of as you compete, because I was competing naturally.
You were like at your best,
and like IFBB and stuff.
Yeah.
But even still, this is like IFBB when men's physique was, well, there was actually guys that I was competing against who are all on gear, but it's not like men's physique now, where it's like how it's literally, here's the thing with competing now, it's like how many drugs can you take and survive? When I started competing in men's physique, I did the first shows in New Zealand, and the criteria was like basically if you look like Jeff Side, that's like, and I whenever I looked at Jeff, I'm like, that is the epitome of men's physique.
I remember even talking about this once. It's like I remember when Jeff first came on the scene, and him, Ogus, like a couple of these guys, I was kind of like this is before I did social media. These are the guys I really like, kind of like followed and probably watched the most. Yeah. And I remember when he first started competing in men's physique, there was like one show he did where he's like 6 feet tall, so like similar height to me, and he was like his weight was like a buck 73. It was like maybe like 178, like 80 kilos, not even.
Yeah,
and like shredded, amazing, great symmetry, proportions, everything fantastic, but like small compared to bodybuilders and small compared to where they are now. And then guys like Sidi Kadzovic, Jeremy Buendia, they just kept on pushing that envelope where now you have guys on stage who are going to be like, compared to that example, which I just brought up, where Jeff was like 6 feet, 170 something. Now they're like 5'9", 200 and 2% less body fat. Where they're like, they look just like...
The stacked.
Just like 4% body fat. Like you've got veins on top of veins on top of veins. And I'm like, you are now bigger and leaner than bodybuilding just 25 years ago. And this is supposed to be men's physique, which is supposed to be the smaller version of...
The category changed quickly, like so quickly.
They just kept pushing it up.
And it was a shame, because I was like, fine, oh whoa, like here's something I can compete naturally and be competitive in.
That's one thing.
And then quickly, like 2 years later, it was like you don't stand the chance.
It looked like I remember watching Pumping Iron, and I'm like Serge Nubret, who came second place at the 75 Olympia, and now he would be like, oh yeah, second place, men's physique, where it used to be like
he wouldn't even place because of conditioning.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh sorry, I'm a little. It's gotten pushed up so much, and obviously we're talking about the higher levels in the pros. But like it all, it trickles down the criteria to what is. Yeah. It's just become astronomical. It's kind of like people keep pushing the envelope, and I get it. I mean, sports are supposed to evolve, but holy shit!
I think we're seeing a pushback in the other direction now. It's kind of slowly coming around. People, I mean, for the last 3 years, I've been watching men's physique. I'm like, seriously?
No, I don't give a shit anymore. I used to watch it. Like I used to watch. Like I'd watch the Olympia webcast, and I would watch like they didn't have a webcast for the men's physique because it was like less popular. Yeah. But somebody would always film it like on their phone for like an hour and then upload it to YouTube the next day. And I'd sit there, I'd watch the whole thing, watch their poses. Yeah. I'd watch like Steve Cook plays fifth. Yeah. Sidi Kadzovic plays
even
second.
those years, like I remember there was just when Jeff did his, it might have been his last Olympia, and they placed him 16th, and I was like, this category's gone to shit. It's good to talk about this. I'm so glad we could be here, like, doing this video.
I feel like it does need, like, more transparency, and it needs more honesty, because I personally am sick of seeing this, and I get it. I know why they do it, but fuck, I hate seeing this. When I will see bodybuilders, usually, like, bigger dudes, maybe pros, maybe not, and they will go on 20-minute rants about the supplements they use. I use Supermax 4000. This helps me get my 21-inch arms. And they will go into excruciating detail about all these things, which, the supplements you take or the other shit you take, or like, I used to do my bicep curls this way, but now I switched to doing my bicep curls this way, and this made my biceps explode. I'm like, no, it didn't. Yeah. But then, like, the other thing, which is like probably like one of the top four things you can do for your body would be genetics, eating, training, and steroids. And they're missing that fourth thing. They're just completely like ignoring it. And in that case, I mean, like, I get it. I understand why you're doing it, because when some of these companies, again, I have no experience with this because me being a natural athlete, this has never been an issue, and maybe I'm just talking out my ass. But I feel like with some companies, maybe if they have it like, if you come out as open, maybe they would drop you, because suddenly, like, people might, associate your body with that, not with whatever supplements we are paying you to take.
Yeah.
And
you can see as much as people like to hate on the industry, you can see exactly why it's at where it's at. It's because of that. Like,
but one thing also I will gonna say is that that's what I used to think, but now my perception has somewhat shifted in the last year, because now you have guys doing the opposite. Sorry, camera died. But pretty much what I was saying is that, like, we are getting to a point where there are now individuals who are kind of like the first, people to come out about their, use of it. They are open to it. Like, they are honest about it. They're not promoting it, but they're saying, this is what I do, and that's me. Yeah. And sponsors aren't dropping them, because at the end of the day, as long as you're not lying, you do you, and you're still a decent face for our company, at least in their opinion,
Yeah.
That's fine. And they're not being dropped, which means that I used to say like, well, I can almost understand why they're doing it. You can say it's unethical, you can say it's an asshole move, but like I would see that sometimes people online would be like, why don't you just come out about it? You know, in the comment section, they'd be raging. I would be like watching other people's videos. And then I would be thinking like, all these three sponsorships versus telling the truth to some kid on the internet who, I'm sorry, at the end of the day, you're a stranger. Like,
I think a problem as well, and this was an issue, when gear kind of started to get exposed online in terms of like fake naturals and stuff, a lot of people doing the exposing were really doing it not out of a place of greater good. Like, I remember when people like Kenny Keogh and stuff and like Cassie Campbell, when they first came on the scene, they were kind of like, it was a very negative, like, I'm just trying to tear you down. It's not like but they tried to come from like I care about people knowing what's attainable and stuff.
There's I mean,
you know
yeah, there at least 50% of the motivation seems to be because I'm trying to like, gotcha.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I'm trying to add transparency to the industry.
And I think that kind of.
But one thing I wanted to say is that interesting is because like with guys like Brandon and there's a few other people. Again, I don't really.
He's the easiest guy to name though.
He's the easiest guy to name because he was the one who probably did the most. Because he like 20-minute videos about this stuff. Like he was very open. And they're not having significant blowback in terms of social media, in terms of sponsorship, and thus financial, whatever. The point is they're continuing to do what they do, and they're doing okay.
Yeah.
They pretty much takes away what I used to say, which is kind of like, oh, I can almost understand why they're doing it, and I don't agree with it, but
so now
like
you think there's more.
But now I'm kind of like, well, you don't have a reason because if someone's going to be a fake natty, and they're going to be, and you ask them like, why are you doing this? They're going to be like, well, I don't want to lose my livelihood. I can be like, well, here's 5 examples of people who didn't, which means that's no longer an excuse, which means your only remaining excuse is that you just.
I think if someone's really claiming natural, it's bullshit. Like if they're not, you know what I mean? If they're really like, guys, I'm like, and you're just not. I think that's.
This is kind of leads back to the question I had because when it comes to individuals, there's a lot of people in the industry who, you know, there's like people who claim that they don't use anything and they do.
Yeah.
And there's people who claim that they don't use anything and they don't. And then there's a lot of people in the middle who do use something but just don't talk about it at all. They just avoid the question. They just shut up about it. And unless you come up to them at an expo like in their face, they're pretty much gonna. So in those cases, it's kind of like the two schools of thought would be, one is like, well, it's fine because as long as I'm not talking about it, I'm not saying anything deceitful, I'm not lying to you.
Yeah.
You believe what you want to believe. You want to believe me as being, you know, you make up your mind for yourself. And I understand that. And then but the other the other school of thought could be that you are in a way almost lying through omission of information. Why is it that if you're on social media, chances are you're telling us a lot about your life. You know, I train like this, I sleep like this, I live like this, I take this for my supplements, but I'm just going to forget that one thing, which, so in that case, you can almost be like, so that,
I understand what you're saying.
It's kind of like, you know, is there such thing? Is you not talking about something the same as you lying about something?
So let me ask you a question. If you were to jump on a cycle, would you be open with it?
I would probably...
See, already there's hesitancy.
I know, exactly.
So that's why you can understand like why there would be that thing from that.
That's true.
Because I think about this, Igor.
Yeah.
So with me, even everything I've been through, so I'm lucky to be at a point where I've managed to get my physique back naturally, and now I feel like my physique looks the best it ever has in my life.
Yeah.
I might not be the most biggest. I might not have gotten the most shreddedest. But I think from a perspective of like, you know, you've trained with me, you've seen me training and stuff like that. Just of how I look now, I'm like happy with it. But there's another side of me which says, hey, maybe next time you're competing, because I'm competing, I'm coming like 5th and 6th.
You think you go up to 1st or something?
Yeah. I'm like, well, hang on. What if I actually got more knowledge about this stuff, did this stuff,
and did it again
more correctly? Because, you know, I'm still training just as hard as these guys and like dieting just as hard as them. I mean, but that's from a competing standpoint. And that's what I think. I'm like, in my headspace now, I'm like, no, I would never touch the stuff again. But when I'm competing, and then that competing mindset of like, I want to win a show, like, I'm like, the thought really comes in, especially afterwards when I'm like, fuck, I came 6th or 5th.
That's interesting. Like, what you asked me, I'm still thinking about that. I to be honest, like, sorry guys, camera died, I ran out of memory card. Pretty much, in this situation, I was almost hoping that I'd be like, of course!
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
But when he asked it to me the first time before the camera cut, I was actually like, But it pretty much, my opinion on this would be that I would have to make one social media content about it, whether it be a post or a YouTube video or something, where for one video in 1 minute, I stipulate that going forward, this would be my decision. That's it. I probably would never talk about it again. I'd probably not make videos about it. I would not turn into one of those channels that, like, I would never be like a Rich Piana or like a Brendan Harding, where I could openly talk about it, even though people would want it because it's open and transparent. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, you don't want it to become about that.
I don't want a steroid channel. It's weird. It's weird and awkward enough of a topic as it is, let alone to be like, hey guys, what's up? Yeah. Here's what I'm taking today: creatine, protein, and Masteron. Whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah. And that's why it becomes this hard thing if it's not so clear cut. It's easy to be like, oh, why isn't people open about it? Why aren't people open about it?
That's true. But at the same time, that's still a very large difference. Like, okay, fine, come out about it and then stipulate and then shut up, or just shut up altogether. But the opposite would be like, just keep on doing like, what's up, guys? 100% natural, fucking like this. Oh my god, I can do it too. Or like the opposite, like guys who do take it, fuck them. And then meanwhile, it's like that's hypocrisy at the highest level, which is fucked up. One of the issue is, it's funny. So what Friesma brought up is that I actually got this question a lot in the DMs. Someone's like, oh, why don't you ask Friesma, and why does he believe that Jeff's side is natural? Which is very, for some people very surprising, because he obviously has an astounding physique and what many people do consider, but you don't think that. You think that he is someone who is at least capable of being natural.
Yeah, I think he's 100% natural. Like like you can say you know someone well, but it's not like I've like grown up with the guy and stuff.
No, but
I spent a lot of time with him and everything. Just in terms of, let alone what everyone online speculates, from actually being someone who's hung around him, my belief is that he's 100% natural. But more importantly, if, like I was saying before, like the stuff cut out, if you look at people like me and Igor, for us to look the way we do now, after our years of training, if you look at photos of us when we're like 13 or 14 years old,
5 out of 10.
What we've achieved in terms of how we look now, and then you like look at Jeff, even in his peak, and then say, well, this is what he looked like at 14. With his genetics, like with our genetics to do what we've done, with his like genetics to do what he's done, it's not that outrageous to me.
That's true, because it's kind of like, if we can all boost our physique X amount, but our starting point is different based on genetics. If someone starts like, if it's like doing a race and someone starts 30 feet ahead, well, if you're both going to run the same distance, for him it's going to be he's going to end up further and faster.
Yeah.
But one thing, it's funny because it's like what he said right here is a very positive, and I like that. I like that kind of like giving the positivity towards, like pretty much the exact opposite of the mentality of anybody bigger than me is on the juice.
Yeah.
There's
a period in the industry where like there's just a lot of guys going around and like it was like that. They were like, well, there's no way this guy's natural if he's... And it was like that.
And I kind of wanted to lead into kind of like almost playing devil's advocate, because it's almost an opposite, is that there was a period of time when I was sort of like that. Especially around the time that...
You did it from a very scientific point of view.
A little bit, but there was definitely at times there is a significant underlying like motivation behind that. And I was going to say that the notch thing is that I pretty much through my fitness career or life went through, like, I just kept on being knocked down in terms of my psychological like belief of what is achievable naturally based on specific individuals that I would like look up to from a physique standpoint. And that kind of demotivated me. Like, I started off with Arnold. I think everyone did. I thought Ronnie Coleman's on the juice because he looks like Ronnie Coleman. But Arnold, come on. This is back in the 70s before steroids were even around. So I thought that, and then I found out no, because duh. And also he talked about it. Yeah. But there was another guy. So after Arnold, there was a person in my gym back when I was in university. And he was a big motherfucker. Not Arnold big, but big. He was like, if Arnold was like 225, 235, this guy was like lean. He was like not even 200. He was like high 190s, which is still huge.
Yeah.
For a comparison, guys, me and my leanest, I'm 170.
Yeah.
And we're the same height, me and this individual, give or take. So, and I was like, this is my fucking goal. And I saw him on a day-to-day basis in the gym because we went to the same college. And then I'm like, this guy is going to be my new idol. I want to achieve this.
Yeah.
And then I found out through the grapevine, because again, same kind of like, it's a small campus. I found out through a reasonably accurate or reliable source that's not the case. And this kind of felt like shit because I'm like, okay, fine, Arnold was God, but this guy is great, but not like, and still the answer was no. And then the last notch was that there was, again, we're not doing specifics in this video because I don't do drama, but like there was other people. There was, there's someone else. And now we're going down in the notch. So we went from God to still pretty good to like, okay, this guy's great, but it's not like, holy shit. And once again, through certain sources, I found out that most likely that is not the case. I could never say 100%. For 100%, it would have to be like either admission or like, I see you doing it. I see you doing it. Like, gotcha! And you're like sitting there with mid-needle like, oh, it's vitamins! But I found out that pretty much that's not the case.
I can tell how natural you are, Igor, just by where you think you would inject your steroid.
Yeah, because it's not blood veins. It's subcutaneous, isn't it? It's like in your soft tissue or something.
Yeah, you definitely don't
like people always joke it's in the ass or the thighs or the shoulders.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
But
anyway, going down the notches.
But the point is, this kind of made me feel, and I like Friesma's like more positive approach here because I had negative, in this, because it's like this was probably like a few years ago. To kind of constantly, you look up to someone and then to just be told like, nope. And you go down a level. Nope. And then you go down a level. And the physiques kept on losing in their, like how amazing they are. They're all still good. Even this individual third on the list was still a fantastic physique, don't get me wrong. Arnold was like, if you think that's natural, you're an idiot. To the second guy, it's like, if you think that's natural, it's very unlikely. To the third guy, it's like, well, I thought it could be, and in all cases, it just kept on knocking me down, and it kind of got demotivating for me.
But what I said to Igor, I said, when you were thinking Arnold's natural and this other guy in the gym's natural, did that push you more to your potential with your own physique naturally in training?
It did, yeah. No, it did. Yeah. I mean, the second guy, especially because he was in the gym with me, I would see him, and I literally, because I'm like, all right, this is what I can do. This is what, he was a bit older than me too, so I kind of kept on like, this is the natural progression for me, or at least something similar to that, give or take genetics. So it did push me harder. I tried to train similarly to him. I even tried to dress similarly to him, to be honest.
And it becomes that thing of like, I am glad that as I was into my training growing up, that I thought people like Arnold and Ziz were natural. Because if I didn't, and that's the problem for kids nowadays, they've immediately got the influence. Like, when we were coming up, we didn't even know about steroids because no one was talking about it. There wasn't like an online scene and stuff like that.
Nothing.
So I'm glad that I looked at people like Arnold and thought they're natural because it made me push the most out of my physique. And I'm scared that if I knew they were natural and people said, oh, it's steroids, I wouldn't have got to where I got to with my physique.
Because you'd immediately discredit
immediately I'll be like, oh, well, I can't do it naturally. Why even try? And then you get in that mindset, and that's just...
I think I've kind of finally settled now, the last year or two, kind of into a much more healthy... Because it's like, I went from being overly naive to after being knocked down so many times...
we all start at the very overly naive.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah. And after being knocked down so many times, I became almost overly skeptical.
And then you get back to
and then I'm finally at a point now where, like, I can honestly say, in many cases, I don't fucking know. You can tell me Jeff's side, I don't know him personally. I don't know what, I know that the genetic variability of the human body is pretty significant. And here's the crazy thing. I know people, and I would bet money that they are natural, who make me look like shit. And then I know people, once again, I would bet money, and like I know through, you can say sources, who are not natural, and they're worse than me.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so weird. I mean, like, it's the opposite. Where it's like, bigger than me, gotta be on steroids. But in this case, it's like, worse than me, on gear. Bigger than me, not on gear.
And quite often that's, like, people don't see that. You just see kind of, like, the perfect looking guys online.
Yeah.
Well, I guess sometimes, like, people go viral, like, bad bodybuilders who have, like, abused roids and stuff like that.
But I think I have finally kind of settled into a little bit more of a healthy... That's why sometimes when I'm, like... Even sometimes when I'm watching my older videos, I'm like, maybe you were a little bit too skeptical
Yeah,
to like pessimistic.
Yeah.
It's funny, like the more I know and the more I research and the more experience I gain, the more I am able to admit and say, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I've heard this quote before. It was like the problem with the world.
Yeah.
The problem with the world is that like the smart are always questioning and doubting themselves, while the dumb are always just cocksure and 100% of themselves. And I think I've started to realize that a little bit more. And because the thing is, I used to be like that's it, and now I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with saying I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if we were filming before, but I was asking Igor if people comment and, you know, accuse him of not being natural.
Oh, I got pissed off at this.
Yeah, and
because it's not enough of people. Not
enough people think he's not natural.
There's a Reddit thread, a subreddit called like Natty or Not, which I sometimes get people send me links if they ever post me, where they just literally the whole thread or subreddit is they just post people and there are people commenting like yeah, no, like what their opinion is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've been posted and then like a lot of people will be commenting like definitely natural. And I'm like, what do you mean definitely? Really? Not even a little bit? Not even like a 50-50?
There's no doubt there.
I'm like, fuck.
And we're saying it's like a compliment to be called not natural, or like it's not a compliment.
It's a compliment to like your morality,
yeah.
But it's not that much of a compliment to your physique.
Exactly. But it's interesting. It's all perspective as well. Like I did a vid on this the other day, and I'm just basically saying like, at what point is your dream physique? Are you there, or what do you think it is? Or like, we're heavily influenced by bodybuilding. You know, like, I love bodybuilding. I'm a fan of bodybuilding. But there's also a point of me, I'm like, I don't want to feel like I need to be that big. You know what I mean? That's going to mess my head up. And that's probably what did in the start.
That's actually one thing a lot of people ask is like, what actually influenced? And you pretty much confirmed that there was a lot of... What I can't even believe is that in your situation, a lot of people influenced you. Guys in the gym, friends, whatever.
And it wasn't... I mean, there was people saying take stuff. Like
stuff. Or like, oh man, you look so good when you were on this. Imagine if you took this.
And there was a lot of it was feeling inadequate next to guys I knew were on stuff.
And even then, it's like you feel inadequate next to the 2 to 3 guys in your gym or the 1 to 2 guys on the beach. Yeah. Imagine that, except 10 years later, when now you feel inadequate next to everybody on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or on YouTube.
And with online...
It's got so much worse.
Of how much we're seeing the top 0.1% in terms of genetics and or like gear use or whatever, and the people who actually like me and Igor, I don't know if it was filming, but we're saying for every guy that like looks like he's doing well on gear and successfully doing it, there's 10 other guys
who are
fucking it up, and they've fucked. They've got bad skin, they've bad size.
Or if there's guys who are taking stuff and they're big and you know about it, you don't know about it, whatever. Where are they going to be 20 years from now? Because you see them.
Topic, yeah.
You see them in like their, you know, in their prime on social media, physically or social media wise. But like, are you going to be following them 20 years later? Are they even going to be posting photos of themselves flexing and selfies 20 years later? Because if the answer is no, then you don't know if like all of this good is going to turn to shit 20 years from now. When like you mentioned, like you did a little bit and you said like it literally turned to fat before my eyes. Now imagine that plus 20 years plus compounding effects plus the health issues. That's what freaks me out. That I think at the end of the day, that and like what I mentioned earlier, kind of like just feeling like I'll never be able to stop. It'll never be enough for me. Bodybuilding will become more a game of chemistry than it will about eating, training, all those things. Those two things combined is what, to this day, freaks me out. At this point in time, and at least for the foreseeable future, like
I always say as well, I'm like, look at anyone who knows on gear, like, take their gear off them. Who is that person? Can they be the same person? Can they have the same level of confidence? What's their physique even going to be like? I think that's interesting. For me to be where I'm at now naturally and have gotten back to this point of, I think my physique's the best it's ever been. I might not be the biggest. I might not have been able to get as the most shreddedest. To know that I've got this and I don't need to rely on taking a substance to look the way I do now, and that it's my consistency of training. And I wasn't saying eating perfectly, but just, you know,
it feels safe.
My nutrition
like
right.
This is the thing. Like I remember this one time a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago. This is pre-YouTube. I quit lifting for like 4 months. It was just I was in school and I'm like I don't know, I had like a bad exam, and I'm like, I'm focusing too much time in the gym and not enough time in school, or in organic chemistry is really hard, and second year university is tough, and blah blah blah. And I just pretty much told myself I'm gonna either like not completely quit, but I took lifting down from a serious hobby down to like once or twice a week dicking around in the gym. I pretty much didn't care. And I didn't lose pretty much any noticeable muscle. It was crazy. Like, I mean, maybe a little bit, but like, it was not that much. As long as I kind of maintain a little bit, I could pretty much, at this point, I think, if I want to proceed forward, yeah, I'm going to have to bust my ass. But if I just want to maintain what I have, as long as I eat decent, not like 20 grams of protein, and as long as I work out like I could literally do 3 days a week, 45 minutes in the gym.
Maintenance 3 days a week.
And I would be okay.
Could keep our physiques.
But, because I feel safe. But I feel like if you're on the juice, you are constantly under the fear of losing it if you run out of a source, if you decide to go cold turkey, even if you just maybe taper down your dosages, all these things would freak you out. And the thing is, if you have all these people that you mentioned, and now it's even extended beyond just the gym and friends, but it's also social media, you have all these people who are like, man, you're looking good, you're looking big, you're looking, oh my God, all these things. When you were on it, you're going to have twice as many people saying, man, what happened? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
All these things.
I went through that.
Yeah.
And psychologically, that is damaging, man. And that's why people get trapped on gear.
And then they're just like, you know what? Oh shit, you just, I'll just go right back on. And you might think like, oh, you don't think, I think you wouldn't think rationally in that situation, because it's just like, it's the worst feeling in the world to have people in real life or on social media just constantly like everybody. We're humans are addicted to positive reinforcement, and we're dreading negative reinforcement. And if all you start getting is negative, that's scary. Like I kind of talked about how like I think evolutionarily like people have evolved to naturally be a bit more aware of negativity. This is why I remember like I was watching like the H3 podcast. You know them?
Yeah.
So like I remember they were once talking about this, and I've experienced this myself, and I think you have too. Yeah. That you can get 10 good comments, 10 comments on a YouTube video, like great man, looking amazing, all that. You get one bad comment, you feel like shit. Yeah. Even though the ratio was like 1 to 10, 1 to 100, you feel like crap. Now, you feel like crap when it's one bad comment, even though, again, it's because humans we're naturally like predispositioned that if everything is good, you don't have to worry about it. But if something's bad, we have to be aware of that because we have to fix that problem. That's how we've evolved to be the dominant species on the earth. So it's interesting because if you get 1 to 10 ratio of bad to good, you feel not happy. You feel on edge. Now, what if that ratio, when you're coming down and your physique's decreasing and you're also psychologically not at your best at all, now it's 10 to 1. 10 to 1, yeah. Now it's the opposite. Now it's all bad. Yeah. So I can't handle one bad comment, one bad this, because we humans are naturally just averse to that. So what do? Get back on.
Yeah. And even it's like the public's perception, and then but you're having those thoughts in your head as well. Like you're having the negative thoughts when you look in the mirror and you've come off, and you're like, what the fuck happened? And like I said, man, I'm just glad to have come out the other end. And
no, man, you did. And one thing I will say is amazing is, so when I met Friesma, I didn't really know much about him. Some people messaged me like, hey, if you're in the Gold Coast, check out this guy. He's, also like a dude.
This is 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Back last time I was here in 2017. And this is when you were still like, you started to come out of this hole that but like you weren't anywhere near, I think, from a physique standpoint to where you are now. So I met him. I'm like, obviously a guy who works out. He's not fat or anything, but like his body fat level was normal, his muscle levels were normal, and but like now, it's like night and day. Like when I saw you when I first trained with you, we did a training session on Temple Gym. To what you look like when you competed on stage, just a few years later, naturally, it literally got to the point where I saw Friesma a couple weeks ago, and like in person for the first time since I was here, and I had to be like, "Are you back on juice?" I had to be like, "Come on, you can tell me the truth," because it's like, he bounced back. It took a while, but like you did it, and so you made it out. But there's a lot of people who can't make it out.
There's a lot of people who can't, and I've got so many friends, and they're like bound to this stuff, which is their individual lives and their decisions, and it's like
But it's fucking scary.
It's scary. So as someone who's not bound to it, like just think about that.
All right, last question because I don't want to take forever.
Yeah, we got.
But a lot of people did ask about this. Your opinion on SARMs? For those of you guys that don't know, this is this new. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to call it, but there's a lot of people talking about it online. It's not a supplement. I believe it is technically a drug, although some people mistakenly assume that they are supplements. They are not. They do affect your body on a biochemical level, which is similar but not the same as steroids, because steroids are synthetic versions of human hormones, where SARMs are just receptor modulators. I'm not going to go way into more detail than that, but it's this new weird.
It's a weird thing.
Pseudo steroid. What's your opinion on this new thing that's coming around?
My opinion is just stay away from it. Like I said, it's best to just not want to rely on anything. If you take that and you do get some gains, you're probably just going to lose them as well when
you go off.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think it's just important to like build something that you can always rely. Like if
again,
if our physiques turn to shit, it's because we turned to shit in terms of our thing. It's not because we're not taking something. You know what I mean?
And even then, I think that the ease and the speed of our physiques turning to shit would be
a lot slower.
I think at this point, for us to like lose everything, like in terms of like you gain fat and you lose visibly, like I would have to try to lose muscle. Your body doesn't lose muscle that easily. You need to starve yourself of protein, not train.
Yeah.
You'd have to become like a marathon runner and like live like a 1,000-calorie like spinach diet. Like it doesn't just disappear. But I think that
let's do a challenge, Igor. Like, how quickly can we both lose our physiques?
How fast can we do it and rebuild it back up? But I would say that one thing I do find it a little concerning is that I do see a lot of people talking online about SARMs. They are kind of referring to them almost as a safer alternative to steroids that are supposed to give you all of the or similar effects, but with significantly less or no side effects.
Yeah.
And I am very apprehensive about that. I think I would be very... There's a lot of people also trying to scam you right now because they're getting really in on it. Whenever something new comes up, everybody wants to be the early adopter. Yeah. And so everyone's going to start selling you this shit, promising you like, the sun and the moon and God knows what. Some dude makes it in his bathtub.
Yeah, well, this is what me and Igor were talking about on the beach the other day. It's like, you can see businesses selling and stuff. You've got no idea what the stuff really is, if it's actually the stuff it says it is, where it's been made, the conditions it's been made in. I've got friends who sell it and stuff like that, like, not to name names, but like blatantly like chest bra, like, you know what I'm saying? But like, and that's
not to name names. That's 4 seconds later.
That's where I get in an awkward position because I've got like friends who are like in this, and then like, but I just would never trust this stuff. And
the thing is, whatever your opinions are on steroids, and if you do sufficient research and feel that you're never going to have zero side effects, but you feel that you can mitigate the side effects and most importantly accept the side effects, at the end of the day, they've been around for what? Almost 100 years now. They were invented like in the 30s by like what? The Russians, the Germans. They became much more prevalent in the 60s and 70s. We're dealing with something here that, assuming like the more basic stuff, I don't know, but like when people start experimenting with like growth hormone and insulin, that shit's scary. But with steroids, it's like you know it's bad, but at least you know what you're getting yourself into somewhat. This is just like, it's just like a wild card. It's like, here's some shit we created for the first time 8 years ago. You're supposed to use it exclusively on rats and like research animals. It's not even like if you look at it, if you Google it, it's not even like sold as a drug or a supplement,
for humans.
Or shouldn't be. It's sold as a research compound that people buy for labs for their rats.
Wow.
That's like
that's insane.
Now it's like with steroids, you get some fucked up shit, but at least you kind of know what you're getting. This is kind of just like enjoy your wild card concoction.
Yeah. The problem with SARMs as well, like people say no side effects and stuff.
No,
but who's saying this?
Yeah, the guy's just trying to sell it to you.
People selling it to you, you know what I'm saying? Because I see a lot of it online, and you got to remember, like, people are making a lot of money off this stuff. So I can see both sides of the coin, why it's getting promoted so heavily and stuff.
Yeah.
But don't be naive and like, I've had clients of mine, I train people, and they're like, I want to get some of this. I'm like, I just say don't. Like, please don't. Like, you don't want to get in that position of, okay, so what? Even if you got something from that in terms of results, you'll never know if it was you that got the results or it's that. And the worst thing is...
It's probably that.
If it's that, then you're like, there's nothing good coming of that.
And it's just, I don't know.
Here's the thing as well. I was saying to Igor, my friend actually took some SARMs.
Yeah.
And he's most stable, emotional dude, like stably emotional guy I know. And he got depressed for the first time in his life. And he was telling me about it. He's like, I've never once been depressed in my life. and
Not like
he was
clinical,
taking the stuff, and he just became heavily depressed. It was like whatever he was saying, like Rad 140 or something.
Whatever.
They're actually pretty easy names to remember. Rad 140. MK76 or whatever. You see the name? Yeah, it's a very hot topic right now, I guess.
It is. There's like a couple people who are. I mean, again, because it's marketed as the safer alternative, and is it? Fuck, I don't know. But like, do you want to put something in your body which is I don't know?
It's been marketed by the people making money off you, mainly as the safer alternative. Who's really like determining how?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to say that like, yeah, if you want to do this, just go on steroids instead, because that probably not a great idea. I don't know, just, fuck, man. I don't know. I mean, again, you want to, like, I've just, like, all the things you're telling me, or that video by Brandon Harding where he's, like, listing the 17 things he has to take just to offset the effects of the other 18 things he has to take. All this shit, just like, you know what?
I'll just stay natural.
I wasn't that good at chemistry in university. I don't trust myself with this. I think I'll take the easy way out.
That was me, bro. Bad at chemistry, and then look what happened to me.
All right, guys. We're exhausted. It's been about 2 hours. I thought this was going to be like 45 minutes. Clearly, that is not the case. Just want to thank Friesma for coming by to talk about somewhat challenging topic and being candid and open and honest about not the easiest thing. It's not like we're here to talk about whey protein.
Yeah. Like I said, from my perspective, I have empathy for people to, I've seen, I've known what it's done to me, and I don't want it to do that to other people. I don't want people to be influenced into taking this stuff for the wrong reasons because they feel inadequate and not good enough without it, because no amount of it will ever make you feel good enough.
Yeah.
And if it does, it's only for 10 weeks.
We feel the same way. I mean, Friesen mentioned that when he's in competition mode, he's kind of tempted to jump back on. It's That's how addicting it is. All the shit he listed
all the shit I've been through, and he's still like, well... When I'm coming sixth in the competition,
I'm like, I could be first. And even for me, again, I wish I could say that I'm like, I pass all these purity tests with flying colors and I've never even considered it, but that's not the case because it's hard not to because, well... don't I want to be 6 feet, 200 pounds, 8% body fat? And you also think that with the physical improvements and the competitive improvements also comes the social media improvements, because I see all these guys who, like, no offense, they're nothing special in terms of personality, humor, editing, video content, and yet they got like 2 million followers just because they're like 2% body fat all year round. Yeah. And I think that could be me.
And we all think that.
We all think that. But I think also what's really fucked up, and this is the last thing I want to mention, we talked about this a couple days ago, how like it's insane how a lot of you guys out there who are into fitness and working out for a while can probably relate to this as well. It's so fucked up how you and me sitting here with a physique which is in the 98th percentile, and we're stressed and to a certain extent a little bit considering, or at least not fully writing off something which has all these negative health ramifications just because we want to be in the 99th percentile. And I'm like, that is fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Either way, thanks, Friesma.
Dude, no worries, man. It's been a pleasure.
Everyone, I'm going to leave all the links to Friesma's social media, his YouTube channel, his Instagram, everything, in the discount, not the discount, it's been a long video, in the description box below. Make sure to check it out. And and also he owns a pretty cool clothing company, which is this. Hey, I really like it. It's called Gymstees. It's kind of like it's
got those natural bodybuilders on the front.
It's a little bit of an Australian fashion vibe, which is kind of different than what I'm used to. So
we got to get Igor on one of these.
If y'all are interested, check it out. Make sure to subscribe. Give him some love. And thank you for sticking around. All 4 of you who are still here after a 2-hour video. I'm like, Joe Rogan does it. I can do it.
Literally.
Either way, thanks.
Oh, good, brother. That was good.
That did feel like a Joe Rogan podcast.
It did, eh?
It did, yeah. I was going to be like, turn around and be like, Jamie, turn this shit on. Jamie, fucking go find this. Google that shit for me.